Shabbat Shalom, everyone. I hope this finds you well. This week's Parsha is Tisa, and as you can see, I have my screen sharing. I wanted to show you a part of the Parsha. So the most important part of this Parsha is that this is the Parsha where the Jewish people build the golden calf. They commit the Chet HaEgel, the sin of the golden calf. And this happens once Moshe has gone up to Har Sinai to accept the Ten Commandments from God. And while Moshe is up there, the Jewish people get a little nervous at the base of the mountain. And they get nervous and they tell Aaron, Moshe's brother, help us build an idol so that we can have someone to actually protect us because we don't know where this guy Moshe has gone. But before we get to that part, before we even go into what actually happens, let's see what the Jewish people actually request of Aaron. So if you can see here, we're in the second portion of the Parsha, and the text goes, when the people saw that Moses was late in coming down from the mountain, the people gathered against Aaron, and they said to him, "Come on, make us gods that will go before us, because this man, Moses, who brought us up from the land of Egypt, we don't know what has become of him." And the word that they use for gods is the word Elohim, and we can say it with the full word, not in the context of prayer, because they're saying gods, lowercase gods, and that's the same word that we use when we would say like Elohim, talking about God in the proper sense, where we wouldn't say the full word. It's the same word that's used, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. I'm just going to stop sharing for a moment. The Jewish people ask Aaron to build them another god, because Moshe has gone away. The Jewish people think that Moses is a god. They've misunderstood. That is the number one thing we get from this sentence. The Jewish people think that Moses is a god, and he's not. So when God tells Moses to come down off the mountain, he is physically telling him to, come down off the mountain after speaking, getting the Ten Commandments and go down to the Jewish people, but it's also to step off the pedestal that the Jewish people have put him on. And perhaps Moshe has allowed them to put him on. Aaron then says, "Yes, let's go to all your wives and daughters and tell them to remove their golden earrings, and we'll turn it into a calf." Okay, well, here's our question: why does Aaron go along with this so quickly? So the commentary tells us that he thought that the women would take a while to part with their jewelry, so he thought he was trying to stall, trying to get a little time, because Aaron, of course, didn't want to build a golden calf. But as he's described in Pirkei Avot, in the Ethics of the Fathers, who ohev shalom v'hu rodef shalom, he loved peace and chased after peace, and that meant telling a few white lies and being a little manipulative every once in a while. So we can always learn from Aaron. So what was the grave mistake that the Jewish people made? Obviously, building a calf, building some sort of idol and worshiping it is a grave sin. But the root of that sin is that they have confused the means with the maker. Meaning they have confused Moses, the messenger of God, the shaliach from God, as if Moshe was God himself. And that's not the case. Again, when we talk about, like back in the days when the Egyptians had the sun god or the river god, or the Greeks had the god of wisdom or the god of war, we called them God. And the word that we use for God is God. And then in Hebrew we call God Elohim, but we also call gods that are not the proper God Elohim as well. Why do we use the same word? It's lowercase, of course, it's different, we mean something different, but why do we use the same word? And we use the same word because these things, the river, the sun, war, wisdom, all of these things are from God, but they're the conduits, they're the vessels with which godliness is sent down through wisdom and war and sunlight and the river. These are conduits for God. So why would you worship the conduit when you know that there's a source somewhere else? And that's what the Jewish people have done. They have misunderstood who really runs the world, and they should understand that it's really God. And that's why it's such a grave sin. And we can do this often. We kind of lose sight of the bigger picture, where we think like, oh, I'm failing because of this one thing, or I'm succeeding because of this one thing, or I'm succeeding because of my own work. And of course, we do put our own work in, and we do get credit for putting in our own effort. That is called hishtadlut, putting in our actual human effort. But there's also a bit of emunah, a bit of faith that we have to have, because only would we be successful in our hishtadlut if it was willed by God. So that's what we can learn from the story of the golden calf. And there's a lot more that we can get into. Maybe we'll get into a little bit more next week. But those are the ideas. I hope you have a great week. Shabbat Shalom. Thanks so much for listening. And God willing, I will be back next week. And Leah, would you like to come say hi?
Hi.
Oh, all right. Thank you for making an appearance.